Working 18-hour days, I slipped and I fell. Windows up and hit me, I had to change well. There's no way to sustain it, you'll crash and burn. Will not be able to work and no way to earn. Change well, and then you can leave. Change well, and your kids you get feed. Turn your life around for the final bell. It's now or never, you have to change well. It's now or never, you must change well. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Change Well podcast. Now, today's podcast will be a little different and may seem a little strange concerning wellness. What I'm going to talk about is that your 8th grade teacher was always right. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are very important, not only to your livelihood, but also to your life and wellness. So let's dive into that a little bit. Concerning reading, I've always been a voracious reader. I read everything from science fiction, poetry, historical fiction, wellness books, of course, and the latest David Baldacci book I always have one. Reading has been key, however, to my wellness journey for several reasons. First, audiobooks have helped entertain me as I worked out. I call it learning while burning, and I recommend it to anyone. I once walked 10 miles when listening to Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers. I was so enthralled with the book while learning about how to talk to people that I never met that I didn't mind the Texas heat. And on the flip side, the book improved my civility as I sweated off the pounds. But I do not always listen to audiobooks. Sometimes, to retain information, I relax and read a written book. This brings about wellness in a different way. In this case, I read for retention and relaxation. Some spiritual books even help me with the practice of mindfulness and prayer. One of those, and one I'm reading right now, and I highly, highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. I will put a link to his blog page in the show notes. It's called Waiting on the Word by Malcolm Guite. And I got to tell you, it's one of the top 5 books I've ever read. If you do not know Malcolm, I highly recommend him. He's an Anglican priest, poet, commentator, songwriter, and a singer in a rock and roll band. The book that I'm reading right now is called Waiting on the Word. It's a series of poems and associated commentary and reflection for Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany. I'm reading it this Advent, and it has really helped me with my prayer life and my sense of peace. Now, beside Malcolm's book, I also read books to inform myself on different aspects of wellness. Now, some of these are going to seem a little odd, but here are 7 books I've read in the last few years that I really think helped me grow in the area of wellness. First is Bill Bryson's The Body. It's essential for anybody trying to heal their body and improve their overall health. The book is excellent, and it really has a lot of fun facts. It gives insight into the human body from the brain down to your very toes and everything in between. So if you want to know how your body works, read that book. Second is From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks. I actually did a podcast on this one. It's perfect for those who are getting older and want to figure out how to get there to the next mission. It talks about how to take the fluent intelligence of your earlier years and meld it into something called crystallized intelligence and wisdom, and how to use it to coach others. I try to use some of this on this podcast, so hopefully it's coming through. The next one is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. This discusses simplifying your life by breaking it down into its essential elements. In this way, you relieve anxiety and do not become as focused on the minutiae of life. So that one is really good. It boils down to figuring out what is essential and what isn't essential, disregard. The 4th book is called Think Again by Adam Grant. and it talks about how you can constantly improve by changing your mind. The book provides the best techniques to change the direction and discern where to go. Now, the next two books, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, was the book that set me off on my wellness and weight loss journey. And then a follow-up is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And they're essential to understanding what is a habit and how to implement habits to change your life and to change how you react to triggers and situations. And the last of these 7 is Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Okay, that doesn't sound like a wellness book, but in that book, Matthew McConaughey explains his life and how he progressed. It's kind of like an autobiography, and he goes toward the green lights and stays away from the stoplights. So sometimes there's stoplights in front of us in our wellness journey, and it doesn't work out. So you've got to go and follow the path where the green lights are leading you. Now just think of a stop sign. I forgot one book I also recommend. It's 10% Happier by Dan Harris. This gives insight into the simple tasks you can do day to day to feel more fulfilled and in general happier. And when you're happier, you're more well. Now I could go on with many, many others. If you look at my audiobooks, I've listened to over 250 books in the last 5 years. If you take my reading and blogging and everything else I read, it's got to be over 500 books, 100 books a year. Now, I read a lot less in physical form for 2 reasons. First, my eyes are going a little bit. But also, audiobooks are a good way to get an initial survey of a book that you may want to dive into deeper. And another thing, when you're walking a long distance to lose weight or just to stay healthy, an audiobook's the only way to go. Nothing beats the Game of Thrones in audiobook form when you're walking long distances. You can walk 34 hours with Game of Thrones, but I wouldn't suggest it unless you're trying to walk that far. So that's all about reading. So where does writing come into play in terms of wellness? Writing is excellent for wellness in 3 different ways. First, journaling can be an excellent way to relieve stress and anxiety while remembering what you are thankful for and the lessons you learned that day. Now, I've kept a journal now for 10 years and have somewhere over 40 books full of my notes in these journals. The journaling book I am currently using is the Gratitude Journal, and I like it because it has a day portion and an evening portion. So you can plan your day and see how you did during the day. It also provides a weekly challenge and a quote that inspires you daily. So I'll put a link in how to order that in the show notes. A second form of writing that helps me is blogging. It is helpful in several ways. First, it enables me to cement the ideas and concepts as you learn them. So I have a wellness blog, I have a weight loss blog, and I also have a blog called Be Good Not Great, which is more on the spiritual side. I find myself often reading my older blogs to remember lessons I've learned and reinitiate those practices. So it's a good way to cement and also when you're blogging and writing, it distracts you from TV and other mind-numbing activities that don't help you improve. Now you're writing down how to improve and you have it for the future to look at instead of watching the latest Netflix and going on a Netflix dive for 8 hours. I can't say don't do that sometimes, but it's a good way to get you out of there. Lastly, writing allows me to play it forward and impart the lessons that I've learned so others can succeed. I also find inspiration in writing, especially poetry. It takes my mind out of the day-to-day tasks and lifts it to contemplate something larger than myself. The last thing is arithmetic. Okay, this one sounds way out there. How can arithmetic help you with wellness? I teach high school math part-time. I found that preparing for my lesson plan has sharpened my mind and problem-solving abilities. Solving a math problem also gives you a sense of immediate satisfaction and accomplishment when you get it right. and also drives you to learn more when you get it wrong. It also helps you exercise that most important muscle in wellness, which is your mind. It is also rewarding to pass on my love of math in teaching to another generation. One other thing about math that is very interesting is I have studied the algorithms and the math behind applications in the WW app and to a lesser extent the Noom app. And I got to hand it to them. They really have taken the nutritional content, especially in this latest version of WW, that can help you figure out how to eat better nutritionally. And the math behind it, quite frankly, is very interesting to me. So there you have it. Your 8th grade teacher was always correct when they told you reading, writing, and arithmetic would make you a better person and would make you well. So grab a good book, write down your learning, and exercise your mind with math puzzles. I promise you, if you do this, you will improve and change well. And until next time, change well.